When the 9070 and 9070 XT launched against the 5070, I said we'd have to revisit those reviews when we actually saw what real market pricing looked like. And I hate to say it, and I never thought I'd say this, but NVIDIA is currently better value than AMD, and it's not even close. And I'm not even just talking on feature sets or weighing ray tracing performance or upscaling. I'm saying just flat rasterized performance per dollar in the United States, NVIDIA is offering better value. Because the MSRPs these products listed at are complete nonsense, and the 5070 is still above its MSRP, but just not by as much as the 9070 and 9070 XT. Like seriously, if I go ahead and look at pricing right now, it's a disaster for AMD. The 5070 is above MSRP by $55. So it's about 10% above its MSRP. However, if I try to buy a 9070 right now, the lowest priced options are completely out of stock, although even the lowest priced one that's listed is $100 over its claimed MSRP. But the only one sitting in stock right now is $833. $833 when the MSRP is supposed to be $550. That means it is so far above its MSRP, it's absolutely ridiculous. And at that point, you might as well buy the 9070 XT, which is meant to have a $600 MSRP, but is instead coming in at $873. Now, these are terrible deals. More on that in a second, but first. Now, I often get asked how I do my little flying around in green screen and resizing and stuff on the fly. Well, it's using a program called OBS. You need a good camera for this to work, as well as a green screen. I'm using the ResizeBAR Tiny 2 Lite, and you can see that we can take off the filters and show you what this looks like without that. Now, this is a really cool camera, and a huge thank you to ResizeBAR for sponsoring today's video. The ResizeBAR Tiny 2 Lite is a budget-friendly device with 4K clarity thanks to its super large half-inch CMOS sensor, and it has some really amazing features. The Tiny 2 Lite is equipped with a 2-axis gimbal and AI tracking technology that has honestly blown me away with its range and accuracy. Seriously, it could follow me all around my room, up, down, left, right, and you can even use easy gesture controls to have it automatically zoom in and out. It also has an easy hand raise gesture control, so you can use it to activate or deactivate the tracking, so it will only track you when you want it to, and there are no annoying menus, programs, or buttons needed to switch. Although it does have its own program that allows a lot of powerful controls, including 4 distinct body part tracking modes, including upper body, close-up, headless, and lower body, so there's a perfect tracking mode ready for your use case. For me, the high-quality sensor allows my green screen effect to work effectively, so this would be great for streamers, but the tracking features make it ideal for so many use cases, including video conferencing, online teaching, content creation, and more. This camera can do everything. Check out the link in the video description and/or pinned comment. And again, a huge thank you to ResizeBAR for sponsoring this part of today's video. So with the 9070 XT sitting at well over $800 if you actually want to buy one in stock, and I'm not even seeing any listed at under $800, that means that it shouldn't be compared against the RTX 5070 like I did in my launch review, where it was only $50 more to get the 9070 XT, and I concluded that if that pricing ended up being real, that was going to be an excellent deal and absolutely annihilated the 5070 at those settings. It was faster in ray tracing, except for the heaviest path tracing workloads. Its FSR4 upscaling looked great, although not quite on DLSS 4 level and not quite in as many games, but still massive improvement over FSR 3. And the 9070 XT in just normal ray tracing workloads was ahead. It was a great deal for only $50 more. The problem is, it's actually up against the 5070 Ti in today's market. And so that should be the performance calculation we're looking at. Let me show you. Again, 9070 XT, lowest one that's actually sitting in stock, $873. The 5070 Ti, on the other hand, is in stock at $850. So actually, right now, today, if I wanted to buy a 5070 Ti, I would be spending less money than I am on a 9070 XT. And I want to be clear, this is real. It is in stock. I can add it to cart right now. This is not a fake listing. Now, it's still $100 over the MSRP the 5070 Ti is meant to have. I'm not trying to claim that this is some kind of amazing value from NVIDIA. I'm just saying that currently AMD is doing even worse, which is unfortunate. So if I go back to my comparison of the 5070 Ti against the 9070 XT, I had that in the average for all of my tests, the 5070 Ti was 8% faster. Now, that included some ray tracing, but if you want to actually just rule out ray tracing, I had them pretty much identically identically performant. There was like a 1% performance difference, although game by game there could be a bit more of a difference. What that means is the 5070 Ti is currently offering better performance per dollar than the 9070 XT without ray tracing. And if you go to ray tracing results, where I had it 20% faster and sometimes 40%, 50% faster if we're talking path tracing, and the 5070 Ti is fast enough to make path tracing a reality, then it's offering dramatically better value. And again, the summary of everything, including ray tracing and non-ray tracing, had the 5070 Ti 8% faster than the 9070 XT in my testing, and currently it costs less. There's also not even an argument about VRAM. They both have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and if you start arguing feature set, then NVIDIA has DLSS 4 is available in more games than FSR 4, and it's still slightly better than FSR 4, although AMD has done a great job trying to close that gap. I can't think of a single reason why it would make sense to objectively recommend a 9070 XT over a 5070 Ti at current pricing in the United States. Now, that's a bit of the elephant in the room because I do understand that real-world pricing around the world can be very different, and I think there are some regions where AMD is priced more aggressively than NVIDIA. But in the United States, this is the reality of pricing right now. The 5070 Ti isn't an amazing uplift compared to last generation selling $100 over its MSRP. In fact, it's basically no uplift. However, it's a better deal than the 9070 XT. Again, even if you're just not looking at just rasterized performance with no upscaling and ray tracing, it's a better deal and has the same amount of VRAM. That's ridiculous. What if we do try to go down to 5070 level pricing? The 5070 is $605 on the cheapest options. That's 10% over its MSRP. That puts it at the same price as the 4070 Super was all of last year for virtually identical performance, meaning the 5070 has done absolutely nothing to increase performance per dollar over the models they had out there last year. But like I said, the 9070 is nowhere in that price range. If I wanted to buy an AMD card in that price range, I have to go to the last generation 7800 XT, which is currently badly priced because supply is drying up on these. I don't think they're in production anymore. This is priced at $590, so about basically $600 and then up. Now, this does get you a little more VRAM than the 5070 at 16 versus 12, but it's also just less overall performance. The 5070 is about 15% faster on average than the 7800 XT when you're not ray tracing, and even significantly more even faster when you are ray tracing, and again, has access to DLSS 4, and the last generation AMD products with the 7800 XT don't have FSR 4 support, and there's no promise that they will get it, meaning you are stuck with FSR 3, meaning the 7800 XT currently costs about the same as a 5070, is slower in rasterized performance, a lot slower in ray traced performance, and has a significantly worse upscaler. And it does have a little bit more VRAM, that's all it has potentially going for it. Again, this just doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess some people might just, VRAM's all you care about and you go that route. Okay, fair enough, there you go. But this is what we're looking at. Now, AMD at launch had promised that they would work on getting more stock available at MSRP. This was the direct quote on launch day. Demand today for our new AMD Radeon cards has been phenomenal. We're working with our AIBs to replenish stock at our partners as soon as possible in the coming days and weeks. Now again, stock has been coming back in for the 9070 and the 9070 XT. The problem is the price at which that stock is available. They're saying that MSRP pricing, excluding region-specific tariffs and or taxes, will continue to be encouraged beyond today, so don't despair. Well, guys, I'm despairing. It's 2 months out from launch, and there is nothing even remotely anywhere close to MSRP available in the United States. Now, they do say excluding region-specific tariffs and or taxes. Now, this is a complicated situation. I've got to say, I've been trying to follow this in the United States, and there's a lot of stuff saying that that GPUs are specifically excluded from a lot of the tariff situation, but then there's also some talk about, okay, maybe it isn't. But here's the thing. AMD, whatever their constraints are regarding that, is under the same sorts of constraints as NVIDIA and their board partners. I don't see why there would be a vast difference there between what they're going up against. So it is true that cards like the 5070 are listed over their MSRP, but much less so than the 9070. So whatever's going on there doesn't really make sense. The 5070 Ti, again, it's above its MSRP by $100. But the 9070 XT is a vastly more than its MSRP and is even above the price of the 5070 Ti. So whatever is going on here, NVIDIA seems to be handling it better to at least keep prices somewhat closer to their listed MSRP pricing despite being above the pricing. And I need to be very clear again in this video that I don't think the 5070 Ti is an exciting product at $850. It doesn't really move the needle that much compared to what we had last generation. Same thing with the 5070 at $600. These aren't exciting things, which is why it's especially sad that AMD is not currently even able to be competitive with that price to performance. Again, we're a couple months out. I hope things get better. Perhaps AMD is focusing its production right now more on the upcoming 9060 XT. We're starting to see listings for this. Should be coming in an 8 and a 16 gigabyte model, but we're not really seeing pricing listed at this point. And we are seeing that the release date is currently expected to be in June, although we don't know for sure. The announcement is most likely going to be at Computex, although again, that's based on rumors as well as AMD has hinted discussing gaming products, just not specifically the 9070 XT at that time. However, that means their announcement date is likely to be on or around the official release date for the RTX 5060. So this is going to be the next battleground for value between AMD and NVIDIA. It'll be these 60 class cards, the 5060 up against the 9060. And I'm really hoping that AMD is able to deliver something here. The 5060 is going to be a $300, if it hits its MSRP, product with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. AMD planning both an 8 and 16 gigabyte version. I'm hoping they can get the 16 gigabyte version both competitive in performance as well as offering, and maybe at a similar pricing to the 8 gigabyte card from NVIDIA. And if they're releasing an 8 gigabyte card, AMD needs to price that incredibly aggressively. I don't want to see $300 8 gigabyte cards in 2025. We are pushing close to the next console generation, which would likely be a big jump in VRAM usage targets for core game design, and we're only a few years out from that. And with how slow GPU generations are uplifting in the current generation, if things continue to trend that way, whatever GPU you buy now, you might be hanging on to for multiple generations, and hamstringing yourself on 8 gigabytes is not a great choice. We're already seeing issues with it now, and that's going to get worse. Anyway, that's the next battleground. Currently in that price point, things look bleak, so I don't recommend buying in that price point. The 4060s are starting to go out of stock, because again, I think they're out of production to make way for the 50 series. They're at like $340. They don't make sense at that pricing. But AMD's 7600 previous generation products, even the 8 gigabyte model, are well over $300, and again, don't make sense there. The 16 gigabyte models are going out of stock at reasonable pricing. And again, they're almost $400 to get those. So again, I do think it's hopefully going to be worth waiting for that 9060 XT based on current pricing here. But we'll have to see where it's actually available, because again, whatever AMD has been doing currently for supply and pricing of their cards, it doesn't seem like it's working. I hope this gets better. But this is the current situation. So it is unfortunately the truth that right now, NVIDIA is offering better performance per dollar, regardless of feature set or ray tracing, than AMD's cards. And that's kind of sad, because NVIDIA is not offering a great uplift in performance per dollar. Hopefully you guys still enjoyed the video, despite it maybe not being super uplifting, and I hope all of you have an excellent day.